Hi, I'm Dan Hancock and I'm the Mental Health PT, and I'm really excited to announce the Happy to Health podcast.
Hi, I'm Ben Lewis. I'm part of the team here at Happy to Health, and one of our goals of the podcast is to open up and normalise the conversation about mental health as well as physical health. And we want to focus this conversation on what we can do in everyday life to improve our mental and physical health.
Hi, I'm Danny Williams, and one thing I'm super excited about is getting a whole range of guests on the podcast that they can share their experiences with us. We can talk all day about mental health and our experiences, but I think getting some really incredible guests, which we've got lined up for this series, is going to be really, really fun.
Yeah, really excited. So guys, I hope you're looking forward to this. Please follow us, please subscribe, please share everything, and yeah, really looking forward to the first episode. We'll see you then. Oh, good. Thanks for having us.
Brilliant.
So first question, what are we all doing here?
Will I take this one?
Yeah, you take this one, Dan.
Okay, cool. So yeah, we're working on a very exciting new project, which you can see up behind us here for anyone that's watching this, which is the Happy to Health podcast. So essentially, I go by the Mental Health PT, and I've created the award in mental health and exercise coaching. So essentially, we train up fitness professionals to understand how to use exercise as a tool to improve our mental health and literally achieve anything that they want in life. And I work alongside Ben, who's my best mate. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, so Dan asked me to come on board when we launched the awards back at the start of this year, around about February. And I left my corporate job to come and pursue this just because I knew the value that we were going to be able to bring to the fitness industry and really kind of try and change people's perceptions of mental and physical health. So it's been a bit of a roller coaster ride so far. Absolutely loving it so far. And we've been able to meet Danny over the course of our adventures, who's now going to be coming and helping us with the podcast launch and helping us deliver the course as well, which is going to be fucking brilliant.
Very exciting.
Speaking of roller coaster rides, you've had a bit of a roller coaster this morning, haven't you?
Just getting here from Leeds. It's supposed to be a 3-hour journey. It took me just over 4. I was trapped in my own car park for about 2 hours as well, so that wasn't ideal. But we're here. I'm happy and we're healthy. Excuse the pun. So got nothing to be mad about, and happy to be here as well.
Awesome. And look, to give you a little bit of background, my background is in health and fitness. I left a corporate job at Virgin Atlantic, where I was with straight after uni for 16 years. Retrained as a PT. Specialised in sports injury and opened a series of sports injury clinics. We had one in Bournemouth, one in Sandbanks, in Poole. And reason I went down that route was that because I loved coaching and I loved sport, and I tried to kind of fuse the two. But one of the things that attracted me to actually chatting to you guys was that something that I never knew when they trained me as a PT, did my level 2, then I did my level 3, is that they teach you all about the physicality and nutrition, and how to use different exercises to improve your physicality. But what I didn't realise is people tell you everything when you're a PT. And my wife's a beauty therapist. She gets told everything by her clients as well. And people are going to hit plateaus at whatever stage of their journey. But what would never even occurred to me until I heard about what you guys are doing is to actually learn how to help the clients that I had at the time with their mental health. So a question for all three of you is, where did the idea for this come from? And is anybody else doing this in the world?
Yeah, so I'll kick us off because it was my concept that I developed over the course of I've been in the fitness industry for over 10 years. But when it comes to the actual concepts of mental health and exercise coaching, informally developed over about 5. And, typical personal trainer doing it because I wanted to look a certain way. I was helping clients look a certain way. And for me, it just became more and more apparent that these people were coming to me, it didn't really matter about the way they looked. They were coming to me to feel good, but no one was hacking into that. And it was also not just they wanted to feel good. It was that they were probably coming from a lot of places of deep insecurity, low self-worth, low self-esteem. And it might not have just been like serious mental illness or serious poor mental health, but they just weren't overly happy. So I found it quite obvious. So I started to do a little bit more research. I started to focus on their mental health first. And then lo and behold, without focusing on the physical health, but focusing on the mental, their physical health improved and everything else improved. So I developed these practices over the course of 5-6 years. People started to take notice of me online, saying, how can I do what you're doing? I want to be a mental health PT. I start looking at courses and one doesn't exist. So I thought, shit, what am I going to do? Right, I'm going to need to create the course myself. So I created it over the course of 1 year, worked alongside SQA, which is the Scottish Qualifications Authority. And now it's been rolled out and we've put 160 coaches through it within the first 8 months already. And only place in the world that it's been done, which to us is still a bit overwhelming because to us it's so obvious now. Like, why is this not being done? But I mean, fortunately for us three, we're the first people in the world to do this.
Congratulations.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate it. And now it's exciting. Like I said, Ben's came on full time. We've got Danny working alongside us now as well. And it really has been a total roller coaster this year, but it's been amazing.
Okay, so question for you two. So first of all, was your initial reaction when you were asked to come on board, yes, I'm all in, or was it, and I suppose it depends on what kind of person you are. Do you then go back and speak to your girlfriend, like your closest, other close friends, your family, and kind of weigh up, the options, or were you literally just like, no, this makes total sense, I'm all in?
Yeah, it was a bit of a mixture, if I'm honest, because I think from obviously Dan and I knowing one another for such a long period of time, there were times where we've obviously discussed the premise or the idea behind a mental health PT or focusing, because that's what Dan found and really wanted to kind of drive forward. So I was there as a kind of sympathetic ear, I guess, to try and give a bit of help, guidance and support over time. And then when it came to the start of actually launching the award, when I was still in my corporate job, working 9 to 5, I was helping Dan out where I could, doing bits and bobs in the evening, doing stuff at the weekend, just because I could see how much was being put into it, and the snowball effect that was happening. It was getting a bit too much for Dan to be doing everything just by himself. So I was helping out where I could, and I think it just kind of naturally reached this point where me and myself, I felt like I wasn't giving it enough effort, if that makes sense. And it kind of hit that point where I was like, this is really going somewhere. I need to speak to Dan and just say, look, what does this mean moving forward? Like, I think I need to come on full time in order for me to be able to give you the best that I can and for you to get the best out of me. And funnily enough, Dan already had it in his head, I think I'm going to need to ask Ben to leave his job. So we kind of met in the middle at that point.
We met in the kitchen floor at 4 in the morning over a drink, and that's when we decided that.
That's very, very true. But it was just the kind of natural progression by that point. And, my family and my partner had obviously seen the work that we were doing, knew what Dan was all about, and it was just a natural progression, I guess. And even when I spoke to people in my corporate job about it, they were like, we can't stand in your way, like I can see how much this means to you, so we're gonna let you go and wish you the best of luck. And now we're on this mad journey at the minute.
And Danny, when did you guys meet? How did you become aware of what the guys were doing?
So I am going to be launching an online coaching business, hopefully in the new year. And there's a platform that's going to be helping me. I'm going to be working alongside those. That's going to help me run my business through that. And it was kind of a mutual friend, the guy who I speak to from that platform, a guy called Matt. He's one of the directors of that company. And he kind of put me in contact with Dan and Ben and said, look, there's an award they've brought out. It's right up your street. It's, mental health is something I've spoken about at length on my platform and on social media for some time. Pretty much as soon as I had a platform, it was kind of one of the key things I wanted to get across and put across in my messages to my followers and my audience. So when Matt kind of introduced me to these guys, said, look, they've got an award. It's right up your street. He told me about it. And I went, yeah, when do we get started, kind of thing. And I was I the second group?
Yeah. I'd only put you guys in
it was just the team and staff in the gym, and then it was going straight down, and literally the first two people, yourself.
I mean, I did a refresher of the course just this week in Manchester, and just to see how much the course has evolved in, 8 months.
Yeah.
There's a group of 15, 20 of us in a big room, and it's a really in-depth in-depth experience, but I remember the first time I did it, it was just me and my friend Mac, and it's just like 4 guys chatting in a room, which actually is quite symbolic, because that's kind of what we're trying to achieve with this whole mental health discussion, is that we can just, especially being 4 guys, just sit and talk about our mental health, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But yeah, that's how us guys met, and long may it continue, the progress and success.
Interesting when you said that with the 4 guys. What's the kind of numbers these days in the industry? Because I exited the industry 2009, something like that. So, and it was always very male dominant, and the females would go more down like exercise to music routes. Is that still similar, or more females training as PTs? And
yeah, it's different now, which I think is amazing, because part of our movement as well is trying to redefine what exercise is. And typically, again, in the past, you would have females, exercise to music, step classes, that type of thing. Finally, down to our work, but a lot of other big names in the fitness industry are trying to get rid of this stereotype that females only do one type of exercise, that they aren't even to be seen in the strength conditioning sections of the gym. But because trying to be skinny has now been replaced with trying to be strong, females now are realise that they actually fit into that area within the gym, and then they can practice that as a vocation as well. So there's definitely been a massive rise of females becoming personal trainers. There's still a lot of work to be done. So for example, you may see a male or a female client go into a male personal trainer, but there's still not a lot of male clients that would go to a female personal trainer. So when it comes to overall equality, there's still a lot to be done, but it's the fitness industry is changing massively, and I think the 3 of us are really proud to be a part of that.
And Danny, did you train as a PT first before you did this qualification, or was this the qualification that you did like?
No, I was already qualified, so I did my level 2 and level 3 probably about a year, 18 months prior. Okay. It was something that when I did my qualifications, and it was something that I thought would be on the back burner, and I would probably, come back to in a few years. But then within a few months, I kind of realized, look, this is the thing that I care about the most. Fitness on a personal level is the biggest passion of mine I probably have. And then in terms of building a career on top of your passions, it just seemed like, obviously, why should I postpone that? Especially when it comes from a place of providing value to people who need it the most. Yeah. There's this huge kind of this huge space that people like myself from the reality TV world go through, where you're fed a lot of messages, and one of the biggest ones is you need to rinse it or make the most of it. And I think that led me down a path where I thought I needed to go, which wasn't anything to do with fitness. It was probably to do with going on more TV shows and social media and brand partnerships and that kind of stuff. And I was probably a bit confused for a bit. So I did my PT qualifications and thought, right, I'm gonna come back to that. I'll put a pin in it, and that's what I want to do in the end, but maybe not for right now. And then, it probably was about not even 8 months, maybe 6 months before I realised that was the complete wrong thing to do, and I need to just focus on what I care about. And then, lo and behold, I got into contact with Matt from Amplify, and then next I've met you guys, Dan and Ben, and it's kind of snowballed from there. Now I feel like I'm really, I'm focusing my energy and time and effort on the things that I care about most. And that's probably the most fulfilling thing. I remember one of the first things I said to Matt, and probably you guys, maybe I've said it, maybe I've not said it, but my number one priority is spending my energy on the things that I care about most. And it sounds so obvious, but a lot of people, including myself, don't do it. And you actually get so much more value and fulfillment out of what you're doing, no matter what it's paying you, when you're doing the things you care about. And
100%. And you're completely right. And I kind of do this exercise every year. I do like roadmap for like planning like the next year out, and kind of covers like all 8 areas of my life. But whenever you look at it and you write down, what you're passionate about, what makes your soul sing every day, what do you love doing? And when you actually write them down, and mine's always like, I love snowboarding, I love doing this, and how often do you do that? You do that once a year, and it's just like that. For God's sake, do what you want to do. So for me, like and I think maybe for a lot of people, this whole reset that we've had during the pandemic has almost forced people to take stock of what they enjoy doing and what they're passionate about, and doing more of it.
In that sense, I think the pandemic's been huge for a lot of people, because we've actually had no choice but to look at ourselves in the mirror and go, who am I? What do I like doing? How can I spend my time? Because I've got so much of it.
We've
actually looked in the mirror and gone, oh, I do love snowboarding. Oh, I do love comic books. Or I do love exercise, and I just forgot about it because I've been so preoccupied with these social standards that I've been living by for so long.
Yeah.
And I guess one of the silver linings of the pandemic, is that, you know, we've rediscovered our hobbies and passions, and now we're in a place where the world's gone back to normal, and we've got this new energy, new shift of attention. We can just focus on our passions a bit more intensely now, which I think is really exciting.
Yeah. And also, like, bring you guys into this as well, like, you know, those passions, those hobbies that actually help you mentally on a day-to-day basis, on a weekly, on a monthly basis, helping you, you know, reach your personal and business goals. And for me, like, one of them, and people who listen to my show will be sick of me talking about this, but one of the things was literally going, like, when the golf courses opened up, going out with my two best mates and playing golf every Friday afternoon. And then when the world opened up again, we were like, do you know what? This really, like, closes the week off for us, kind of almost wipes our brain of what we've been doing day to day, every hour of the working week, and sets us up perfectly to enjoy the weekend and ease into the next week. So we've just carried it on, and we've just taken Friday afternoons off. We'll literally finish 12:30, 1 o'clock, and we'll play golf. And I'm crap, but I enjoy it. And I just love being with my two best friends, talking absolute rubbish, but just being out in nature and just being us three. Yeah. And it's great.
And that's it. And I think so. We found that basically, this is one of the things that we teach in our course, but we preach it on a daily basis as well, is that you need to do things that are both meaningful and purposeful. And the issue is that if you are able to interlink these two, you're going to be doing things that are purposeful, so they get you from A to B and they help you make progress. But then they need to be meaningful as well, which actually, you know, make you happy, give you a buzz. But the issue is that people think that these have to be separate. So a lot of people will only focus on meaningful things, so like exercise, nutrition, but without having, purposeful things, but without having the meaning behind it. So what you need to do is you need to try and marry these two. And it's people finding the link towards these purposeful things and understanding that they actually will help them, but then also not being so hard on themselves as well, because there's so much pressure at the moment to be a certain way. And I remember I did an event recently, and asked a young lad, I was like, right, so what is it that you do that's meaningful and purposeful? What do you do in the evening? And he was like, oh, I play the Xbox. And I was like, well, that's brilliant, that's both. And he was like, no, that's not purposeful. I was like, why not? And he said, well, that means that I'm lazy. And I said, no. I was like, how often do you do it? And he was like, an hour a night. I'm like, okay, an hour a night. I said, does it help you switch off from work? He said, yeah. I said, okay, do you play it with your mates? And he was like, yeah, online. I'm like, okay, so you're socialising. I was like, what sort of game is it? He told me. I was like, right, so you're problem solving, you're learning all these life skills. But he totally bet himself up every single night. I said, actually doing something like that that's meaningful to you is also purposeful, because it helps you switch off. But because of these societal norms, people feel as if it places too much pressure on them, and then they don't actually spend enough time doing the things that they love, which, if they appreciate it, will help them get from A to B.
That's really cool. Yeah,
so it's just about that perspective, isn't it?
It's all about perspective, isn't it?
Yeah. So, yeah, really cool.
Yeah, and one of the things that we've enjoyed doing quite recently, Dan and I have started playing badminton midweek, just taking lunch out. And again, like, on the face of it, you think, oh, they're taking an hour out of the day. They're not focused for that hour. But at the same time, yes, we're having a laugh. Yes, we're moving and exercising, but we are talking about work when we're playing badminton. And then when we come out of that, we're more focused and energized for the rest of the day. And if anything, those are probably then the afternoons that we probably get more done than the days that we don't do that. And we're having fun at the same time.
You look at those countries that are like moving to a 4-day working week, for example, as well. You know, that's really interesting, but not like docking the wages like I've seen some other ones do. Well, you can work a 4-day week, but we'll only pay you for working 4 days a week. But I, you know, for me, funnily enough, like, the reason that I left corporate job with Virgin Atlantic to retrain as a PT was because I thought that would give me control over my life, and I could literally, you know, choose what hours I wanted to work. Do you still find a lot of people wanting to do your course, for example, are leaving existing careers, or are they coming like from further education and have that, like, say, passion that Danny's had for health and fitness and wants to go into that route?
Yeah, they're leaving the corporate world, aren't they?
There's quite a few, isn't there? Yeah.
Well, we recorded a podcast yesterday with Danny Buck, didn't we?
Yeah.
And Danny, entrepreneur, owner of Crafted, and he was basically saying that he still will have a lot of structures in place, but he's got rid of a lot of these traditional methods that the corporate world would have, like set working hours, set holidays, all that type of stuff. And he's just kind of given them the freedom and the autonomy to just be like, look, if I get the key values and the ethos and the whole culture of the business right, these people are going to want to work for me.
Yeah.
And then I'll be able to give them, like I said, the time off to focus on themselves, which is ultimately going to improve their productivity and lead to creating a successful business. So a lot of people are coming from a backwards way of working to realize, actually, you know what, I can work for myself. It doesn't need to be stressful, and I'm going to positively benefit everyone around us.
Interesting, isn't it? And when you decided to come up with the awards, and you're looking at coming into an industry that's traditionally been dominated by a couple of really, really big players, like the Training Room, who happen to know the founder of them, companies like that. How big is the vision that you have? You've clearly put quite a high number. I think in like 8 months, that's quite a high number of people to put through. Of course, like 160 odd people. Yeah. How big is the vision? How far can you want to take it? And
it's endless. It's absolutely endless, because for every single personal trainer, there's 50 clients. For every single client, there's a family member, or there's multiple family members. Because the main thing that we teach to our coaches is, don't just incorporate these values for your clients, incorporate them for yourselves. Teach your friends, your family members, your loved ones. And if we can have that knock-on effect, it's endless, absolutely endless. But when it comes to a business side of things, we're definitely, within the course of next year, we're hoping for some big partnership names that can roll these out to commercial gyms, but also private gyms, leisure clubs, that type of thing. Because for us, it should be an industry prerequisite.
Just touching on what you said as well, not from a business perspective, but from someone who's done the course and meeting other people who've done the course. A lot of people enroll on this award, not just to help with their business and their clients, but also for themselves. And like we've said numerous times, mental health affects every single, but we've all got a mental health. It's not like something that only some people are entitled to, or some people suffer from, or benefit from. A mental health is something that every single one of us share. So in that sense, the course really is open to every single person. Like you could not be a PT and benefit from this course. You could be a teacher or a doctor or a vet or anything, and you could still get huge value from doing this qualification. So I think when you're talking about, how big's the vision, maybe not from a business perspective, but from who could benefit from this and where can the value be attributed to. It could be everybody. Literally, it is infinite.
Yeah.
Do you not think, and I was going to read out some of the stats there. I'm actually going to read out some of the stats now. Let me read out okay, so I saw these on your website, so you can tell me if you've updated it or not. But one in 3 young people experience mental health issues each year. Yeah. Mental health is the second largest source of burden of disease in England, and more common, long-lasting and impactful than other health conditions. Mental health is responsible for 72 million working days lost and cost 34.9 billion. 70-75% of people with diagnosable mental illness receive no treatment at all.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah, and it's scary. And I'll let some of the other guys speak on this as well, but just to then add an extra layer to one of those stats, which is the 1 in 3 young people, 50% of those come about before the ages of 14, which just shows how
wrong.
Yeah, which just goes to show it's these early interventions that need to take place. And going into schools will be a big thing for us, but at the moment it needs to be through the PT world. They teach clients, they teach friends who are parents, then it feeds down. But yeah, the earlier the intervention we can have, the better.
Yeah, definitely. And with our awards, we're not training people up to be mental health practitioners. All we are trying to do is give people the tools and the confidence to actually be able to have these conversations with people as and when they open up through exercising. So let's not kid ourselves on. There are people out there just now that are opening up to their personal trainers or fitness instructors, and a lot of them don't know how to have these conversations. And that's what we want to try and do with the award, is make sure that they are coming from a place that they know that they might say the wrong thing, but it's okay, because you're never going to please everyone. You might say the wrong thing, but ultimately, if you're doing it from a position of wanting to help people and then having the confidence to have those conversations, then we're going to be able to help so many more people across the industry.
Yeah, agreed. And I just think back to, when I was working as a trainer, and say not having those tools in my toolbox to be able to have those conversations with people. But if you actually think of it from a business point of view as well, as if you're able to help your clients, those clients are going to continue to be long-term clients. Therefore, you're going to earn more money from the job that you're passionate about doing.
Yeah.
No brainer.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think new I mean, I'm not a personal trainer. I've not done it. Obviously, these guys are qualified as well as yourself. But a lot of our coaches joining the program are saying, you know, I wish I was taught this at the start of my personal training journey to give me a more realistic understanding of what it's actually going to be like out there in the real world in training individuals.
I think every single person who's enrolled on the course can say, you know, I wish this was included in my level 2 and level 3. Like, why isn't mental health even just a little bit touched on in my qualification, in my training? Because it's something that you're going to encounter on a daily basis with your clients. It's not like a little niche that one in 100 clients might go through, like the stat said, one in 3. You know, it's a lot of people. So, you know, I think if we can start to bring the conversation about and make it more normalized to talk about, I think we're only going to see those numbers decrease.
Yeah, and surely there's no better time for launching a business, a qualification, than there is now. I was saying coming off the back of a pandemic, but the time of recording this still very much in a pandemic, and you know, people's mental health has clearly been affected. And like you say, young people, you know, I've got 2 girls, and me and my wife say it's amazing how resilient they seem to have handled it. But I know it's not the same for all of their friends, and you hear stories of people like self-harming, and that's like one of my best friends I play golf with, he was saying that is now, I hate to say the word normalized, but when he was chatting to another teacher, that's like a standard way of people reacting to having mental health issues, which kind of blows my mind, really.
Yeah, it's a funny one, because it's so many people like will come to us and they'll be like, "Oh, you've timed this right," and we're like, "No, it's been in the pipeline for a long time." But yeah, like you said, if there's one thing that we all have in common now, we can talk about poor mental health or mental health in general, because every single person, whether they know it or not, has suffered in some way. Whatever that is, might be a little bit more minor to other people, but suffered in some way over the course of the last couple of years. But one of the things that is, I won't go as far as saying worrying, because I'm not as worried about it, because I know that we are going to directly target this and help with this. But when it comes to poor mental health and mental illness, throughout all of time, it's been a mix of environmental and biological, right? But at this moment in time, poor mental health is massively just environmental. It's our lifestyles at the moment. It's what we do on a day-to-day basis. It's our friendship groups. It's work. It is the amount of time we spend on our phone. It's social media. So the positive we can take from that is that is within our control to help. But it's getting that education out there, because at the moment there's a little bit more normalization. Let's talk. But with speaking without education becomes over normalization, which is like you said when you've mentioned your daughters. Social anxiety is almost like an accessory now in young people. So what we need to do is we need to get people to talk, but we also need to get people to listen, and then we need to put the education behind there as well.
Danny, coming back to you, what's your experience been? You mentioned earlier, like coming off a reality TV show, and I've spoken to other friends of mine who've been on reality TV shows like BBC Apprentice, Love Island programs like that, Jamie Lang, Made in Chelsea, and other things. What's your experience been personally, like with regards to social media? Because as you said, you've got you have a platform, and it's either kind of like use it for good or don't use it at all. And yeah, what are your thoughts? Anything like personally come off the back of that? Any like what positive, negative feedback have you?
Yeah, it's a whirlwind with many positives and many negatives. I think is probably the best way to describe it. And it's a lot of information to take in, and you're hyper aware of the seemingly short window you've got.
Right.
And you're kind of, it's reinforced a lot by a lot of people, even with good intentions, that you need to kind of make the most of that window that you've got, because it's not going to last forever and all that kind of stuff.
That standard phrase that you've heard.
Yeah, you got to rinse it, you got to make the most of it. And quite often it's also with good intention as well, so you kind of want to take it with love. But I think for me, one of the key kind of pinpoint moments was recognizing that it's not a burden unless I kind of allow it to be and kind of decide that it's a burden. Every day you kind of wake up and think, right, is it going to burden me today, or is it going to be something I can use to provide value? And when I kind of switched that in my head, instead of, because I'll be honest, there was, especially at the start of me having a platform, I really didn't know how to use my platform. I didn't know what I should be using it for. Should I be prioritizing trying to monetize it? Should I be prioritizing like my own mental health and just coming away from it for 6 months and just not going on it at all? So I was really confused at the start of how best to use it. It's almost like having a superpower that you don't know how to access. And I'm just randomly like killing people. No. And also like, that you get no kind of, you get no real training. You just kind of handed it and kind of you learn on the job. And that can sometimes, as through personal experience, you can say the wrong thing. You can be politically incorrect. You can be human and just make mistakes, but in front of 500,000 people. Or plus. So it was a huge learning curve, but when I kind of clicked in my head, look, I can decide to use this for good rather than just try and monetize it, and lo and behold, I still find ways to use it to benefit me financially, as well as using it to make myself feel good about providing value to people. And I've managed to find that to be more sustainable anyway. Like my window seems to have not closed. If anything, it's getting bigger. So it was never easy. It was especially at the start very, very difficult, and you have to learn on the job, which isn't easy. And then the people around you who you depend on to support you also have no idea what to do either. So like as much as they love you and they want to help you and support you, like no one really kind of knows what you're going through. So yeah, it's a huge learning curve, loads of positives and also quite a lot of negatives too. But I'm now at a point 2.5 years later where I'm at a place where I've kind of got a bit of balance with it. I feel like I've got a healthy relationship with social media, which is by no means easy to have. So yeah, I feel like I'm in a fortunate position.
And was it one of those situations? I was chatting to somebody last week that I interviewed, and he was like, kind of went in and he had something like 4,000 fans, came out and he's got 340,000 fans, followers on social media. And it's very just like those kind of DMs. Yeah,
very similar to me. I think I had about 5,000 followers, and I probably posted once a month. I hardly ever posted. I just went about my business, and every now and again I'd be like, oh, I have Instagram, and I just post a picture of like a bridge or something, or like or a car. Yeah, like
you still do that.
Yeah. And for me, I came through this reality TV machine, and it was like you're expected to post a picture of yourself every day, and I was like, what? Like that's ridiculous. Like what? Like, and I was following other people who seemed to be so good at it, and I'd be like, well, I still, even 2 years later, find it a bit awkward being like trying to shoot content and take pictures of myself, and I still find it a bit of a bizarre concept. But yeah, I went through that, and then to come out with like I said, like half a million people, and especially the kind of the scrutiny I think that Love Island contestants get is quite particular compared to other platforms. Not to be like trying to complain, but I think for a period of time, you're probably like the most famous people probably walking around the UK for a few months. Like it's really, really
show
intense.
And I'm a Celebrity, I reckon, are probably the two most.
Yeah, I think it really kind of peaked on the year I was on as well. Some of the storylines that were going on in my season were like in the newspapers every day and all the magazines, and I'll never forget, like, my brothers and sisters are getting like picked on at school because of scenarios I was going through on the reality TV show. And my little brother even to this day is homeschooled, and like my sister moved schools, mum and stepdad coming off all their social medias because they're getting flack, and you're getting messages on a daily basis. Like I won't go into it, but it's like I said, there's lots of positives but also quite a lot of negatives too. And without the training and kind of you're not really given the heads up, you just learn on the job. So but no, like I say, I'm at a point now 2 years later where I can look back at probably some of the negatives and say those directly contribute to some of the personal growth that I've had in the last 2 years, and where I'm at today where I can talk about mental health and feel like I'm talking competently and confidently about it without being like do I have the authority to speak on these issues? I think I'm in a fortunate place hugely because of some of the things that were so difficult at one point. But yeah.
So you don't wish you were back to like 2,000 followers and...
Oh, there's
simpler than
days when of course, yeah. Look, I'm not, I've not got a perfect relationship with social media. There's days when I wish it wasn't a thing. I wish sometimes I was born in a different era. It seemed to be much easier before social media. But also, there's all the positives that we can reap from it. And like I say, it's about making that choice to stand on the line of, look, here's what it's great for, and choose to be grateful for those things, rather than like down in the dumps. Everything's so difficult, because there is both. You just got to choose your side.
Yeah, interesting one that came out. I think it was literally like a couple of days ago. It'd be interesting to know your thoughts on how you use social media, like personally and business wise as well, guys. Is Lush coming out and saying that they're coming off all social media platforms? And 2 years ago they said the same thing, because I interviewed one of the co-founders for this podcast, and they're $1 billion company now. Okay, $1 billion company, made the decision to come off social media, then decided to go back in like a year later because of the reaction that they've had. Their audience wants to see them on social media, to be visible on social media. And then now, and I don't know the full time for another podcast with them clearly to ask them about that, but just to go back in and then say, but we're going to do Black Friday first, and then we'll come off social media. And I was like, aha, right, okay, so you want to make a load of money off it first, but then come off on your own terms maybe. So yeah, interested to know all of your thoughts on that, and how do you use social media, as a business, as personally?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think for me, like, I feel as if I've got a social responsibility now, so that's why I use it, and we talk about it quite a lot. I still get a really good buzz off it, because one of my main things that I like about this job is I'm quite creative, that's my favourite thing to do, is be creative. So if I write something or do a video and then I get that feedback from it, and I know that I'm benefiting people, that's one of the most fulfilling parts of my job. But I don't actually use social media besides that. So I won't scroll, I won't browse, I won't do anything like that. So that's all about me guarding my environment. When it comes to a business standpoint, we have to have it. We have to use it. And don't get me wrong, we've got coaches who come onto our program who want to be mental health and exercise coaches, and they say, well, I don't want to use social media. I've been a hairdresser for 20 years. I grew a hairdressing business off word of mouth. Why can't I do this? And we think, you know what, that's great. Let's do that. Let's use those interpersonal skills. Let's use those people skills to build in person. But yeah, when it comes to us with regards to the level that we're at with business, we need ads. We need Facebook campaigns. We need, doing polls and stories in order to get engagement and that type of thing. So we are lucky that we've got people helping us with it now. But when it comes to me personally, I like using it for a social presence and for a movement and for a purpose. But besides that, I mean, I'm very comfortable about taking a step away from it.
Yeah, I think it's just like Dan was saying, that's where the audience is. That's where people are consuming information. No matter what your thoughts are on social media, that's where everyone's eyes are at the minute. So you do need to promote your business on these channels. And even when we were speaking to Danny Buck yesterday as part of our first podcast, he was saying, it's changed so much even over just the last year, and it's much more difficult now for businesses to have that presence and try and promote things. And it's, I guess, trying to stay ahead of the curve, but also not standing still and being stuck behind and not adapting to these changes. But I think it's one of those necessary evils, shall we say, that it needs to be on there.
That's the way I look at it. But I think someone said to me something earlier this year, and it was that, try to just be the content creator, not the consumer. So like you said, being strategic as to when you go on there and what your intention is when you go on there, what you're looking to achieve by going on there. If it's literally just scroll aimlessly, then that's no good for anybody.
Yeah. It's funny though, people's perception as well, because people must think that I live on there because I'll be active all the time, but I'll be one of our team in the DMs and that type of thing. Yeah. And because, I'm posting quite regularly now because I'm wanting to get our message out there about 3 times a day or something like that. So people will think, oh my God, he's on that all the time. Whereas realistically, I'll try to schedule as much as I can. It's a lot more difficult to write stuff and then schedule it for a later date. I'm really impatient. So I'll be like, oh, that's brilliant. Let's get it out straight away. So a lot of people would think that we're actually actively on it all the time. But if you can be disciplined, and if you can have a structure and a process in place that allows you to be creative plus getting it out there, there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't be active, quote unquote, on it all throughout the day, but then actually never be on it. So I think it's about finding that balance, and that's a balance that is a must for me, because I think, to sum it up, if we weren't having this movement, and if this wasn't, you know, my life's mission to do this, personally, I wouldn't even be on social media, I don't think.
Yeah, that's the way I've looked at it now with my business being like podcasting has literally exploded in the last 18 months. It took like 14 years of podcasting to get to 850,000 podcasts. It's taken 18 months to get to 3 million podcasts, you know. And before I had to explain what a podcast was to people. Now you just need to say the word podcast and people know exactly what you're talking about, whether they're 50, 60, 70, 15, you know. So I've just come to the conclusion, look, if it means me for 5 to 10 years, literally going, because you see the correlation of you putting something out and then comments, sales, you know, direct correlation between those things. You're like, you'd be stupid not to harness that. But I think you've got to have an intention, like you says.
Yeah, definitely. But then, I think then it comes as well, like just I think for Danny's sake as well, it's about what you're using it for as well. And I think especially with a platform like Danny's, knowing that what you're posting out there is fulfilling to you and inspiring to you, but inspiring other people, I think that makes it a lot easier as well.
Like the vacuum robot.
Oh my god! Did you see that? That wasn't even about like fulfillment. That was just like my audience need to see this because I'm not sure if everyone's seen it. I was so impressed by that.
One. Yeah.
I think part of what I want one. I think part of what I have learned to do is instead of shying away parts of my personality that maybe I think people won't find interesting, I'm actually being a bit more open with on social media. I used to think I have to look a certain way or behave a certain way, or I can only be visible if it's cool. But then who's the judge of that? I think I've kind of learned to be more accepting of who I am, and if that's being fascinated by Dyson vacuums, then so be it. That's who I am. That's my authentic self. So yeah, I shared that on my story. You know what? Quite a lot of people replied to it saying, some people said get one, they're awesome. A few people said that looks so cool, like it looks awesome. So
you did it to me when I got the Dyson fan. You were like, oh my God, is this the... Did I really? Yeah. Like, is that the Dyson Aircon 3100? I'm like, I don't know.
That sounds very... Look, that's me. That's
well, Dyson, if you are listening and you're looking to sponsor any podcast, this could be a great route to go down. I wanted to finish up with a couple of questions. First of all, so just going back, Danny, when you did like the level 2, level 3, and then you did this award with mental health, could you pick out like some of the major differences on how it was presented as somebody who's coming in and learning about that? What's the focus?
As in the comparison between this and then my level 2 and 3?
Yeah.
I would say that when I did my level 2 and 3, when I completed it, I, to some extent, didn't feel that much more qualified. Strangely enough, I felt like I had a very big foundation of and fundamental knowledge of fitness and exercise and coaching points, and I felt even before I did my level 2 or 3 that I could have been a PT at that point. And I remember completing my level 2 and 3, and this is no disrespect or discrediting the qualification that I did, but I didn't feel any more particularly like, you know, authoritative or like, you know, I feel much more like a PT now. I just kind of revised predominantly what I already knew. Yeah. I did it with a group of people who was, you know, very similar to me in the sense of they had an interest and a passion in fitness. They all went to the gym. So you have a kind of a foundational knowledge. But the difference, I would say, was when I did my award with these guys was I left it being so excited to apply it, you know, and I felt I had newfound knowledge and methods and techniques and things that I wanted to put into real life application as soon as I possibly could. And I think that's the biggest difference. When I did my level 2 and 3, it was kind of, you know, I kind of went through the motions, did my exam, got my certificate, and I was now a PT on paper, but I felt like I already was one. Yeah. With this award, I felt like it really gave me value that I was just so excited to then put into practice straight away.
And coming back to you. So
no, genuinely.
You. Cheers, mate.
Well, you've got the award, you have the certification, you have proof that people have completed it and they're changing lives. I guess it comes down to business point of view. How can you get this in front of more people and make it incentivize them, make it attractive enough for them to want to choose this over old school?
Yeah, so it's the concept has got us so far. So we signed up 50 coaches on like almost in day one, week one, based on a name. There was no social proof, no evidence of it even being done. And the only actually a handful of people questioned it. Yeah. So we got a concept, and then we've kind of then built the next part of the movement on emotion. So many coaches saying, oh my God, this is brilliant, that's fantastic. And although that's great, we then have had to wait another 6 months to see, right, well, how does it actually benefit people in practice? How many clients do they get? How are gyms operating now based on the methods and the structures that we've helped them implement? So we've got to that stage, but now it's kind of like you said, it's down to the business now. Now it's just how do we strategize? How do we grow? How do we then license it to other companies? And that's the stage where we're at now, creating new partnerships, which is really exciting. But one of the most exciting things that's happening now is we marketed the course initially based on my personal clients who experienced my methods. Then we marketed the course based on our coaches that we're putting through it, their emotions, how they're feeling. Now we're marketing the course based on our coaches, clients, and that pot is now becoming almost limitless. Yeah, so that's the exciting thing now, and then they will then be able to showcase absolutely everything, which is really cool. So yeah, it's a massive ask, but the team's growing constantly, and we're prepared for the challenge. And Ben's a big part of that as well.
Oh, thanks, mate. And look, it's been one of those kind of, like we said at the start, it's been a bit of a journey, and even I think up until recently, I was saying to Dan, do we want to continue training 100 people a year, or would we rather train 10,000 people a year? And ultimately, that's how we're going to drive the mission forward into the industry across different continents worldwide. And it can't just be down to me and Dan going on tour and traveling around everywhere delivering it. We need people like Danny, who's an integral part of the team now, coming on board and helping us deliver the training across multiple different locations, and that's how we hope and we feel that we're going to be able to scale the business moving forwards. And yeah, it's really exciting. Some of the, not give too much away, but some of the conversations that we're having with different businesses out there is giving us a bit of hope now that there is some businesses out there that want to be a part of this mission and do want to affect that change.
And is that the difference there? Like you're saying, for me the word is obviously scale. How do you go from point A to point B now? But having a mission and inspiring people and taking them on that journey with you, the journey that you've all been on already, because that's how you create a movement. Yeah,
that's it. Dare I say, we've got a cult now. So
there you go.
All of these coaches who have signed up are so bought into it, and anyone who experiences it is so bought into it. The thing that we just have to get across to people is, trust in us, see the value, and the more people that come on board, obviously it's spreading. The thing is that some of it will just take time. As with a lot of big things, we just need to have patience, and we know it is going to get there. But yeah, there's definitely some things that we are implementing just now to fast track that growth. But yeah, it's really exciting.
And do you, just to finish, last question, I say this to everybody, last question, and got another question. Do you think there is still a stigma around mental health, or do you think that has been completely shattered, or it's still there?
Massively. I think we can all chip in here. I think there's still so much work to do. I think it's worth noting that it's heading in the right direction, but the mission is so big that it would be silly to assume that it's completely, is fixed. And I don't think it'll even be fixed in the next couple of years. I think it's probably a generational thing that will slowly, the taboo of talking about mental health, especially in men, I think it'll take probably generations to eradicate that taboo and have it more normalized. But, if we can be, some of the first people to try and tackle it head on with this award, trying to deliver it just to coaches and PTs, then, what a privilege.
Yeah, and another important point to note as well as the award that we're all working on, one of our other big projects that we're doing right now is, again, it's the Happy to Health podcast. So we essentially, what we want to do is we want to normalize this conversation. We want to get individuals like ourselves to be able to sit in a room, talk about all things fitness, business, mindset, mental health, marry all of these worlds together and talk about something that was previously a taboo subject and a subject that was shied away from, and now actually help people realize that this is one of the most inspiring things that we can talk about, because with mental health is human behavioral psychology, is mindset, is awareness, is all of these exciting things. So actually now, hopefully everyone listening to this as well, and going forward will realize that mental health is an inspiring topic It's not a taboo subject, and that's what we want to achieve from the podcast as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, the fact that we're just three normal lads talking about our thoughts, feelings and emotions completely openly and broadcasting it on the internet is going to help break down some of those barriers.
Definitely.
And the podcast is going to be called
Happy to Health. Danny Williams can Danny can take credit for this one.
Absolutely nailed it.
It's interesting. I had the idea for the podcast name in my back pocket months before I even knew you guys. I just kind of had it as a name that I thought this would be a great name for a podcast, and then the concept kind of was already born in my head before we even met. So kind of the stars aligned. Yeah. We all kind of met up, and then when we was talking about names and what would it be called and what would the main, the drive and the ambition for the podcast be, it was kind of like, it kind of just made sense. It just came to the stars kind of aligned, and it just kind of made sense. And luckily you guys liked it. That's a stupid idea.
That you came out with it right away, and we were like, no, we can't beat that. No chance, no matter what we try and come up with.
And also for anyone listening, you might have noticed that the H to H also stands for head to head. So there's a couple of exciting challenges in the podcast as well. But I won't say any more. I don't want to have any spoilers.
The podcast is out in January 2022.
It is. Very excited, yeah. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, pleasure to have you all on board. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks for having us.